cognitive approach and my little experience. He already told most of it. I was lucky enough to start with my previous coach, and from playing I started to help kids and help under 15 boys in 2010. And from that moment, I started to fall in love with this game. I was lucky enough to be in a top team with the women's team, so I learned a lot of stuff of video, of scouting, and a lot of stuff that made me really interested in the matter. So I started to study both as a mini basketball trainer and as a basketball trainer, because in Italy there is different licenses for both. Also different ideas, which I took a little bit from both of the models and I made it mine. This is something that I want to share with you. I think you have always to steal, always to take things from other coaches and make it yours. Make it yours means that you have to try it if it's working, because something that could be taught by a college coach in USA could not work for our kids, for our environment, for our characteristic. So it's important that you make it yours. You try and retry, you experiment also, and see how it's going. And then after a lot of experiences with the youth teams, as you can see here, and both as a head coach and both as an assistant coach, and I had many experiences also with the senior teams, helping out in the minors of my country. And when I got the opportunity to move to Denmark with this little town that has a team in third division, we moved up in 2 years in a row to the first division. So it was a lot of work also on the teaching and recruiting part. I had the joy to try also to be a physical education teacher for a while, for some months, replacing another teacher. So it was really forming me a lot, that experience, to see also how they deal with the youth in Denmark, which is totally different than how we deal in Italy. So apart from this, I question myself as a senior coach. I'm thinking about what I want. What does a senior coach want? What are the requirements? What a player has to be able to make? For example, here I put some ideas of, I want my player to be physically prepared for the competition. I want him to be a good team player. I want him to take initiative on offense and on defense, recognize tactical situation as mismatches, etc. And then most important, it's make functional decisions. It's important because it's starting everything on the cognitive side of my talk. We want, when a 17 years old is moving up to the senior team and trying and be probably not the best of the team, he has to make good decision. There he can learn a lot more from a senior coach. And it's important that all the development he has to have in his background is started from when he's 6 years old. It's not something that is put there in the air, but it's just a concept on where to start. So we have the mini basketball concept, which is a range of age between 6 and 11 years old. Of course, we will have kids that will start later, kids that are jumping directly to the youth because they get in love with this sport late. So then I will explain how we can handle with that. But first of all, we have this separation between the mini basketball concept and the youth reading game. We start from the mini basketball concepts and how to start. This is not only for mini basketball, this is also for basketball, for senior coaches, for youth coaches. We need a starting point analysis. We have to know who are our kids, who are my players, check if they have any deficiency on motor, relational, technical, and cognitive areas. Get to know your players. You can never understand how to deal. I heard some expectation of the others about how we deal with different characters, how we deal with different players. We have to get to know them. We have to spend time and asking them things and making them feel important. Then after that, after checking the starting point analysis, we need the goal setting, where we can go with them. Target the goals related to the age group. If the goals are not appropriate for the skills, change to the previous age group goals. Now I will start with some guidelines about the mini basketball concepts that are from Italian Federation, but I took only what I needed, what I think it can work for me, and it worked for me. So I will explain it in the next slides. Then we have choice and organization of contents. What should I make them do? Now that I know the guidelines, now that I know how to make it, what do I choose? What should I make them do? And here is important that we are coherent with what we do. If we are starting to make pressure on the ball, we cannot expect also the first pass to anticipate and deny every pass, because it will be impossible to make it. So you have to decide your philosophy and be coherent with that. Then the methods, what do I need? I need the small and big tools with a natural load. We're talking about kids 6 to 11 years old. At least on my point of view, we don't need any weight. We don't need anything because they have to work on their natural load. And they have to use space and time related to the goals. And mid-year and at the end of the year, we always put game situations. At the end also the practice, we always put game situation, as we say, during the year and at the end of the season, to evaluate their knowledge, their ability, and their competence. These are three concepts that will be important in our guidelines. So starting from the guidelines, they're divided for reference area and age groups. The reference area, as you can see, the first point for me is the cognitive one. Then we have the motor functional, relational, and technical part. And it's on purpose that is the last one, because many times we think that kids have to start to learn as quick as possible to shoot the ball or to make crossovers or to make between the legs. Yeah, it's important, but it's not our first priority in this model. The age group, they have a name. So we call first knowledge, who are up to 6 years old, so it can be from 4 to 6 years old. Then we have the knowledge up to 8 years old, ability up to 10, and competence up to 11 years old. At 11 years old, in our imaginary, we have to have a kid that is able to make decisions, that is able to start the youth path. Starting from the first knowledge, many times, I don't know how it is in the Philippines, we start early with the kids, but I've, in my experience now in Denmark, they start when they are 3 years old and they're able already to stand on their feet. So it's something that is new for me, that I'm starting to learn, because it's really hard to handle with them. But when they are up to 6 years old, they need this important thing, to identify themselves and recognize. Recognize what? Recognize part of the body on the cognitive side and new motor experiences. We talk about basic motor skills, we talk about walking, we talk about crawling, and for sure, you know, all the basic motor skills. The motor function, on the motor functional side, we need them to explore these basic motor skills and the sensory perception. We make a lot of exercises where they have to listen, they have to look, they have to feel the contact, which is right now it's hard. That's why we're not starting to play basketball with this era of COVID. And the relational side, here at 6 years old, we cannot expect them to have a relationship with their teammates. They're probably starting to have some relationship with their best friend that are playing basketball with, but the most important thing is the relationship with the trainer. They're still attached to their parents. The parents are there looking at them, and they don't pay attention to us. They pay attention to the parents. So it's important that we have to build this relationship with them. And the game for them is just a response to a need. They want to put out energy. They want to have fun. On the technical side, the ball is a game tool. This is a key word, tool. It's not a goal. It's important. The technical side, on my approach, is a tool. We use it to reach other goals that are the cognitive one. And then use the dribble to move on the court. First leader rule that we have to make them accomplish. When we pass on the next step, on the knowledge, we need awareness. They have to be aware of their body. They need to be aware that they have to read and resolve the first problems that we have to create. The coaches have to create these little problems, these little drills where they have to think. They don't have to just react at a stimulus response, at a whistle or something like that. This is something that I will show you in the methods. On the motor functional side, the combination of basic motor skills that they learned in the previous age and the management of the orientation. They have to know where they're going, if they're going backwards, if they're going forward, if they change in direction and going back. Meanwhile, on the relational side, now they start to collaborate. Now it's the game is a discovery and a collaboration with their teammates. So it's important they start to relate with the other players and the rules. At this age, they have to be aware of most of the rules of our sport. In the technical, the fundamentals with and without the balls are important, but remember, always as a tool. In the ability up to 10 years old, here we talk about responsibility and collaboration. It seems a little bit too much for a 10 years old kid if you think about it. But if they have been starting to work on their cognitive side, they start to make decisions, they start to understand what is going on. It's not only to say, we are pretty used to tell the kids what to do. It's easy. They look up to us, they will do whatever we are telling them to do, or they will react that they don't want just because we say that. So it's important they play to understand and understand to play. This is something that is not easy. We have to have patience, and it's something of is the value that I always told since they're kids till they are senior players. It's important to be patient about it. They start to observe and analyze things. They develop more motor abilities like the adaptation and transformation. For example, we can also find in the youth sector when someone is losing a ball and he has to come back on defense. He's adapting to the new situation and transforming his body to get back on defense, or after a rebound to run on offense. On the relational side, now the relationship is with the game situation. It's important, it's a big motive, it's a goal that they have to play at this age as much as possible, because our game is not made by pattern, it's always changing. Every action is different and they need to relate to that. And with that, they will start with the responsibility. Sorry, I went forward. With the responsibility and collaboration. And meanwhile, we're always putting the goal on the cognitive and motor side. They technically have to have efficiency in the fundamental control. The fundamental control depending on the game. So if they understand what they're doing, if they understand why they're doing something, it's also easier for them to learn a fundamental. And at the end of our path will be 11 years old. We want an autonomous kid. So this is our goal, and our focus and development is on their perception, their attention, their concentration and anticipation. Read and choose in a functional way. On the motor functional side, it's important they have a consolidation of their basic motor skills and the coordination skills. And here there is something new probably on the relational side, which is the communication. Before we started talking about their relationship with their teammates, they're probably talking, but they're talking when it's off the practice, when it's before the practice, when it's after the practice. Here, we need to communicate during the game to tell our teammate what is going on, what is happening, something that he cannot see and I can see. And they have to be aware of the efficiency of the communication and be active participant in the game. On the technical side, they are starting to understand. If they work on the cognitive side, they started to understand the first tactical references. Their fundamentals are used to deal with the game situation, as we say. Here we have some Martin in 1982 made these sensitive phases for development of physical abilities. And this quote is important. Every component has the best time when it can be trained. I will open a little discussion about it. I've seen coaches at 10 years old working on endurance, working on strength. It's okay, but we have also to be aware of what we can work on at which age. For example, if we keep a look to coordination, rate of reaction, on sound and visual sign, spatial orientation is going up. Here, the rate of reaction is pretty big around 8 and 9 years old. So we need to work on that. We cannot work on something like strength. As you can see at 8 years old, they will not able to develop any strength. And the rhythm is a big thing here in this age. So they need to work on something like they can really relate to and get better to get to be an autonomous kid. And an important one is also the flexibility that, as you can see in this age, is vital, is going up in the early 7 years old and then it's going down. So if we don't work on flexibility, we will have kids that struggle to make the most easy movements that we want to teach. If we want them to stay down, stay low on defense, and they're not able to move their ankles or their knees, it's a big problem because we didn't teach them to be flexible, to make exercises where they have to be flexible at this age. Here are the methods, or what I use. At least I will make some differences going forward. The centrality of the child is the main thing for us and for me. The children is the main character of the practice and of the game. The trainer is only a director behind the scene. He's creating game problems to resolve, asking for feedback and feed forward. Also about correction here, I'm a little bit aware that sometimes our first thought is like, hey, you made a mistake, hey, stop there, redo it. And it's more important they understand. It's more important to ask, was it good? Did you find it comfortable? Did you get the result you wanted? What can you do in order to get the result? I know that sometimes with the little kids, they don't pay attention, but if we train them to pay attention to these matters, they will answer. They will be there understanding the game. They are understanding what they're doing. And here we divide again in ages about how to make emotion discovery and gain to our kids. For example, at 5 years old, we cannot run a practice without making a little bit of storytelling. We have to, I don't know, I had this idea of putting we are in the castle of ghosts and we are all here that we have to walk, but we don't have to make sound, or we have to crawl. So they're starting to learn basic motor skills, but with an engagement, with an emotional engagement. And it's important at this age. Also, we get to know, for example, I don't know in the Philippines how it is, but there are some kids that are watching some cartoons or stuff like that, and we have to make them relate to us. So we have to learn. We go to check this cartoon how it is, and we try to understand the story, and we try to make up a story so they feel engaged in the story. And this is not working anymore at 7 years old, because there they need something different, and the emotion for them is the activator. We don't need to whistle, we don't need to do that. They start by themselves when our captain decide that we can go to the other side to score, or we have to dribble in the open space, but there is this guy that is trying to touch our balls. If we don't want to stop, we have to avoid him. So it's something, instead of telling, hey, when you dribble, look up and don't look at the ball, they're doing it by themselves. And if they struggle, they continue. And we can always ask for feedback and feed forward. And at the end, we have the power games, which is a strong point in my approach. The children decide when to start the competition, when to start the drill. For example, we put two kids in front of each other. The first one has the power because he earned it in the previous competition. He won a shooting game. So now he's deciding when to start. He's starting to dribble, to making crossover. The other has to make the same. He has to be the mirror. Then when I got the power, I decide where to go. I go to the basket at my right. He has to go to the other basket. He has to react. Who is scoring first is taking the point for the team and taking also the power for the next of my team. So these are all little tools that we use to make them be the main character of the practice. We don't want to stay there and whistle and say stop and say this. Also with the stop thing, I'm more likely saying seconds, like, hey, 5, 4, 3, 2. So also they get used to the game when the time is running out. Here, there is a little difference between the models, and I have to be honest here, when I started to coach the little kids, that it was my side job, it was something just out of my high school. I was taking this part of the model. I was the central part. I was whistling and telling the kids what to do. In this exercise, in this drill, we have a line of kids that they have to pass the ball to each other, and the first one to get the ball, the first team to get the ball to the last one without dropping the ball is winning. And it's the model of learning is stimulus response. We whistle, they start. In the game is not happening that. The trainer decided when to start the drill. The focal point is on the teaching the pass, but there is no game situation relevance. How can we teach them how to pass the ball if we don't put a game situation? It's really, that's the big question. So, for example, in a power game here, we have the first team that has the power is ahead. The first one with the ball on the top of the key, the second one under the basket, he has the power. On the other team that has to react are behind them, one with the ball in the half court, one under the basket behind it. So he got the power, he's the starter. He decides where to go and when to go outside of the paint. He decides to go this way. This guy has to go touch the cone and then pass the ball. Same thing, he has to react and go on the opposite side, and this guy has to dribble until the cone and pass the ball. Who is scoring first, give the power to the team. The teams are here, as you can see, and they're ready right after someone is scoring to get ready to go dribble here at the top of the key, and the other two are ready here. 2-3 seconds and we start again. And I don't need to say that. I don't need to say, hey guys, be ready after. They already know. So the children here decides when to start and which solution to choose. The focus is on the learning process, and the trainer only prepares the ground. And here we have a high game situation relevance, which is something that could happen in the game. I had to react to someone else. You can see it also at the senior level. Here it can be that I'm getting out of a stack screens. So it's all things that are preparing our kids to go to the next level. Here I have other two drills that I use. Actually I use also with the youth team sometimes when I had to face they were incapable of making decisions. So I had to start a little bit earlier, a lot earlier with the drills like that. So here we have a problem-solving situation. We have a 2 against 1, one step ahead together. So we have the blue team is on offense, both in the corner, half court and baseline corner. We're going to this basket. The defense is here, one coming back like in a handicap situation. This guy is the starter. He decides when to move on the court and run on the court. So this guy and this guy, they have to find a solution by themselves. He can, for example, here there is it's draw that he has to run here. He can also run baseline on the other side. This guy can also go on this side. It will be always different. Also because after playing 2 against 2, so after we start and he's recovering on defense, they continue to play 2 on 2 until we say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And at the end, the next 2, this guy's making one step forward. This guy's making one step forward. So the situation changes again. And when they start to move, they start to play. So it's all things that the situation is motivating the child to find different solution to a different game situation. So the process is a definition of and analysis of the problem, search for a solution, also being creative. I also believe at this age, we don't have to tell the kids, hey, don't make the behind pass, don't make, as long as effective, they understand that has to be effective as a normal pass, for example, they can do it. They can be creative. They have to be creative because we don't want a kid that is doing whatever we want them to do. because it's not what we're going to face in the youth development or with the senior team. In the second drill we have, it's a 5 against 5 with the 2 handicap. So it's a 5 versus 3 on giving high 5. So here we have the 2 defenders. Here we have the offense with the ball. Normally I'm not even passing the ball. The ball is starting from here and they start to dribble. Here there are 2 teammates. Here there are other 2 teammates. The defense is the 2 here, 2 at the half court, and 1 under the basket. So we have always a situation of 3 against 2 in this half court and 2 against 1 in this other half court. So when he starts to dribble, when we pass the ball, the 2 defenders are meeting halfway under the basket, giving high 5, and then running back on defense. So we have a 5 against 3 situation. Anything can happen. They have to decide, and we don't stop in something like that. We want to see how is the evolution of the action. We want to see what is going on, which choice they're making, and why they're making it. So always with feedback and feed forward. This situation is a significant learning situation for the child because it stimulates his cognitive processes. It is an open situation that encourages his ability to read and choose in function of the available space. It's important they start to test themselves to see what happens if I go to this space, what happens if I go now, if I go later, what happens if I make this choice. And they have to be aware of that. And sometimes we just want to give them a solution to say, hey, it's like that because I say that. It's all right, but then when they go to the next level and we want them to take a decision because we are not there every time on the court with them to tell them what to do, well, we will not have answers. So the structure and the final goal of mini basketball concept, it's always the fundamentals. What we call fundamentals is a mix of tools that are the dribble, the pass, the shooting, the defense, the off the ball game, which are not our goals. These are tools that they have to get better in, but not as a main goal. Our goals are the cognitive load, are the motor skills, and the self-perception. With both of them, we can have an autonomous, collaborative, responsible kid. And most importantly, they have to understand the game to be competent. And that's what we want when they're 11 years old. Of course, there will be some kid that is starting at 10 years old, he will be starting at 7 years old. So everyone is different. We have to try to get the best out of them every time, trying to make them work on the cognitive side. So I'm done with my first part, and